That's chapter 17. Shakily, I wiped the back of my hand across my mouth and then stumbled away from the puke spot. I refused to even consider what I'd puked up until I came to a giant oak that had grown close to the hall, that half its branches hung over the other side. I leaned against the tree, concentrating on not getting sick again. What had I done? What was happening to me? Then, from somewhere in the limbs of the oak, I heard a meow. Okay, it wasn't really your average, normal cat-like meow. It was more like a grumpy meow snort. I looked up. Perched on a limb that was resting against the wall was a small orange cat. She was staring at me with huge eyes, and she definitely looked disgruntled. How did you get up there? Meow, she said, and sneezed, and inched her way along the branch, clearly trying to get closer to me. Well, come on, kitty kitty kitty, I coaxed. Meow, wolf, she said, creeping along, uh, about one half of her little paw lengths. That's it. Come on, baby girl. Move your little patties this way. Yes, I was displacing my freak out and channeling it into saving the cat, but the truth was that I couldn't think about what had just happened. Not now. It was too soon, too fresh. So the cat was an excellent distraction. Plus, she looked familiar. Come on, baby girl, come on. I kept up conversation with her as I hooked the toe of my flats into the rough brick of the wall and managed to pull myself up far enough so I could grab onto the lowest part of the branch that the cat was on. Then I was able to use that branch as a kind of rope to climb further up the wall, the whole time talking to the cat while she kept complaining at me. Finally, I got within touching range of her. We stared at each other for a long time, and I started to wonder if she knew about me. Could she tell that I had just tasted and liked blood? Did I have blood puke breath? Did I look different? Had I grown fangs? Okay, that last question was a bit ridiculous. Adult vamps don't have fangs, but still. Meow, she said again, and moved a little closer. I reached out and scratched the top of her head as her ears went down, and she closed her eyes, purring. You look like a little lioness, I told her. See how much nicer you are when you're not complaining. Then I blinked in surprise, and realized why she seemed so familiar. You were in my dream, and a little happiness pushed through the wall of sickness and fear inside me. You're my cat. The cat opened her eyes, yawned, and sneezed again, as if to comment on why it had taken me so long to figure it out. With a grunt of effort, I scrambled up so that I was sitting on the wide top of the wall, beside the branch where the cat was perched. With a kitty sigh, she jumped delicately off the branch onto the top of the wall and walked on tiny white paws over to me to crawl onto my lap. There didn't seem to be anything for me to do except scratch her on her head some more. She closed her eyes and purred loudly. I petted the cat and tried to still the tumult in my mind. The air smelled like it might rain, but the night was unusually warm for the end of October, and I put my head back, breathing deeply, letting the sliver of moonlight that peeked through the clouds calm me. I looked at the cat. Well, Nefrit said that we should sit in the moonlight. I glanced up at the night sky again. It would be better if the stupid clouds would blow away, but still. I'd only spoken the words, and a gust of wind whistled around me, and suddenly blew away the wispy clouds. Well, thanks, I said aloud to nothing in particular. That was a very convenient wind. The cat muttered, reminding me that I had the nerve to quit scratching her ears. I think I'll call you Nala because you're a little lioness, I told her, resuming my scratching. You know, baby girl, I'm so glad I found you today. I really needed something good to happen to me after the night I've had. You would not believe. A weird smell drifted up to me. It was so odd I broke off what I was saying. What was that? I sniffed and wrinkled my nose. It was a dry, odd smell, like a house that had been closed up for too long, or somebody's scary old basement. It wasn't a good smell, but it also wasn't so gross that it made me want to gag. It was just wrong, like it didn't belong out in the open at night. And something caught the corner of my eyesight. I looked down the long, winding brick wall. Standing there, half turned away from me, like she wasn't sure which way she wanted to go, was a girl. The light from the moon, and my new and improved fledgling ability to see well at night, let me see her, even though there were no lights outside near this part of the wall. I felt myself tense. Had one of those hateful dark daughters followed me? No way did I feel like dealing with any more of their crap tonight. I must have actually voiced the frustrated groan I thought that I had made in my mind, because the girl looked up towards where I was sitting on the wall. I gasped in shock and felt fear skitter through me. It was Elizabeth, the Elizabeth no last name kid who was supposed to be dead. When she saw me, her eyes, which were a weird, glowing red, widened, and she made an odd shrieking sound before whirling away and disappearing with inhuman speed into the night. At that same instant, Nala arched her back and hissed with such ferocity that her little body shook. It's okay, I said over and over, trying to calm both the cat and me. Both of us were shaking, and Nala was still growling low in her throat. It couldn't have been a ghost. It couldn't have been. It was just a weird kid. I probably scared her, and she, Zoe, Zoe, is that you? I jumped and almost fell off the wall. It was too much for Nala. She gave another tremendous hiss and leapt neatly from my lap to the ground, completely and utterly freaked out. I grabbed the branch for balance and squinted out into the night. Who who is it? I called over the pounding of my heart. Then I was blinded by the beams of two flashlights aimed directly at me. Of course it's her. Like, I couldn't recognize my own friend's voice. Yeesh, she hasn't been gone that long. Kyla? I said, trying to shield my eyes from the glare of the flashlights with my hand, which was shaking like crazy. Well, I told you we'd find her, a guy's voice said. You always want to give up too soon. Heath? Maybe I was dreaming. Yep, woohoo, we found you, baby, Heath yelled, and even with the awful flashlight glare, I could see him hurl himself at the wall and start to scramble up like a tall, blonde, football-playing monkey. Incredibly, relieved it was him and not some boogie monster, I called down to him, Heath, be careful. If you fall, you're going to break something. Well, unless he landed on his head, then he'd probably be okay. Not me, he said, pulling himself up and over so that he was sitting beside me, straddling the wall. Hey, Zoe, check it out. Look at me. I'm king of the world, he yelled, throwing out his arms, grinning like a total fool, and breathing alcohol-scented air all over me. No wonder I'd refused to go out with him. Okay, there's no need to forever make fun of my unfortunate ex-infatuation with Leonardo. I glared at him, feeling more like myself than I had in hours. Actually, it's kind of like my unfortunate ex-infatuation with you. Only it didn't last as long. But you didn't make a bunch of cheesy but cool movies. Hey, you're not still mad about Dustin and Drew, are you? Forget them. They're idiots, he said, giving me his puppy dog look, which used to be really cute when he was in 8th grade. Too bad the cuteness had stopped working for him about 2 years ago. And anyway, we came all the way out here to bust you out. What? I shook my head, squinting at him. Wait, turn those flashlights off. They're killing my eyes. If we turn them off, we can't see, he said. Fine, turn them away. Point them out there or something. I gestured out away from the school and me. Heath turned the beam of one that he'd been clutching out into the night. So did Kyla. I was able to drop my hand, which I was pleased to see had quit shaking and stopped squinting. His eyes widened when he saw my mark. Check it out. It's all coloured in now. Wow, it's like on TV or something. Well, it was nice to see that some things never change. Heath was still Heath, cute, but not the brightest Crayola in the pack. Hey, what about me? I'm here too, you know, Kyla called. Someone help me get up there, but be careful. Let me put my new purse down. Oh, and better take off these shoes. So you would not believe the sale you missed out on yesterday at the baker's. All their summer shoes were totally on closeout. I mean, serious closeout, 70% off. I've got 5 pairs for help her up, I told Heath. Now, it's the only way she'll stop talking. Yep, some things just didn't change. He scooted around till he was on his belly and then leaned down to offer his hand to Kyla. Giggling, she grabbed them and let him haul her to the top of the wall with us. And it was while she was giggling and he was hauling that I saw it. The unmistakable way Kyla grinned and giggled and blushed over Heath. I knew it as well as I knew that I would never be a mathematician. Kyla liked Heath. Okay, not liked. She liked Heath. Suddenly, Heath's guilty comment about messing around on me at the party uh, I'd missed made perfect sense. So how's Jared? I asked abruptly, totally stopping Kay Babble's giggles. Okay, I guess, she said without meeting my eyes. You guess? She moved her shoulders, and I saw that under a very cute leather jacket, she was wearing a little tiny cream lace cami. We used to call those boob shirts because not only did it show off a lot of cleavage, but it was also the colour of skin, and it looked like it was showing more than it actually was. I don't know. I haven't really talked much about the past couple of days or so. Or we haven't really talked much the past couple of days or so. She still wouldn't look at me, but she did glance at Heath, who looked clueless. But that was really his only look. So my best friend was going after my boyfriend. Now that pissed me off, and for a second I wished it wasn't such a nice warm night. I wished it was so cold, and Kyla would freeze her overdeveloped boobs right off. From the north, a wind whipped around us suddenly, viciously, bringing an almost frightening chill. Trying not to look obvious, Kyla pulled her jacket closed and giggled again, this time nervously instead of flirtatiously. And I got another big whiff of beer and something else. Something that had been so recently imprinted onto my senses that I was surprised I hadn't smelt it right away. Kyla, have you been drinking and smoking? She shivered and blinked at me in a very slow, uh, like a very slow rabbit. Just a couple of beers. And oh, I've missed a page. And well, Heath had one little bitty joint, and I was really, really scared to come here, so I just had a couple of tiny hits from it. She needed some fortification, Heath said, but he's never been good with words over 2 syllables, so it sounded like fortification. Since when have you two started smoking pot? I asked Heath. He grinned. It's no big deal, though. I just have a joint once in a while. They're safer than cigarettes. I really hated it when you called me Zoe. Heath, I tried to sound patient. They're not safer than cigarettes. And even if that's not saying much, cigarettes are disgusting and they can kill you. And seriously, the biggest losers at school smoke pot. Besides, uh, the fact that you can really not afford to kill any more brain cells, I almost added, or sperms. But I didn't want to go there. Heath would definitely get the wrong idea. if I made reference to his man parts. Nuh-uh, Kyla said. What, Kyla? She was still clutching her jacket against the chill. Her eyes had changed from pitiful rabbit to sly, twitchy-tailed cat. I recognized the change. She did it constantly with people she didn't consider part of her girlfriend group. It used to drive me crazy, and I would yell at her and tell her not to be so mean. Why was she turning that crap on me? I said nuh-uh, because not just losers smoke. At least, not just once in a while. You know those two really hot running backs who play for the Union? Chris Ford and Brad Higgins? I saw them at Katie's party the other night. They smoke. Hey, they're not that hot, he said. Kyle ignored him and kept talking. And Morgan smokes sometimes. Morgan, as in Morgie, who's a tigerette? Yes, I was pissed at Kay, but good gossip is good gossip. Yeah. She also just had her tongue, she's just got her tongue and her Kay broke off and mouthed the word clit pierced. Can you imagine how much that must have hurt? What? What did she get pierced? He said. Nothing, Kay and I said together, for a moment sounding eerily like the best friends we used to be. Kyla, you're not staying on subject again. The Union football players have always been drug happy. Hello? Please recall their steroid use, which is why it took 16 years for us to beat them. Go Tigers. Yeah, we kicked Union's ass, he said. I rolled my eyes at him. And Morgan has clearly begun losing her mind, which is why she pierced her. I glanced at Heath and reconsidered her body and smoking. Tell me someone normal who's smoking. Kay thought for a second. Me? I sighed. Look, I just don't think it's smart. Well, you don't always know everything. The hateful glint was back in her eyes. I looked from her to Heath and then back to her again. Clearly you're right. I don't know everything. Her mean look turned startled and then flattened out to mean again. I suddenly couldn't help comparing her to Stevie Ray, who, even though I'd only known for a couple of days, I was absolutely, totally sure would never go behind after my boyfriend, whether he was almost ex or not. I also didn't think she would run away from me and treat me like I was a monster when I needed her most. I think you should leave, I said to Kyla. Fine, she said. It's probably not a good idea for you to come back again either. She shrugged one shoulder so the jacket fell off. I could see the thin strap of the cami slip down her shoulder, making it clear she wasn't wearing a bra. Whatever, she said. Help her down, Heath. Heath was generally pretty good at following simple directions, so he hoisted Kyla down. She grabbed the flashlight and looked back up at us. Hurry up, Heath, I'm getting really cold. And she spun around and started marching off toward the road. Well, he said a little awkwardly, it did get cold all of a sudden. Yeah, it can quit it now, I said absently. I didn't pay much attention when the wind suddenly stopped. Hey, Zoe, I really did come to bust you out. No. Huh? He said. Heath, look at my forehead. Yeah, you have that half moon thing, and it's coloured in, which is weird, because it wasn't coloured in before. Well, now it is. Okay, Heath, focus. I've been marked. That means that my body is going through a change to become a vampire. Heath's eyes went from my mark and travelled down my body. I saw them hesitate at my boobs and then my legs, which made me realise that they were showing all naked. Hold on. Which made me realise that they were showing all naked up to my crotch because my skirt had hiked up whenever I climbed to the top of the wall. Zoe, whatever's happening to your body is cool with me. Seriously, you look hot. You've always been beautiful. Now you look like a real goddess. He smiled at me and touched my cheek gently, reminding me why I liked him so much for such a long time. Despite his faults, Heath could be really sweet, and he always made me feel completely beautiful. Heath, I said softly, I'm sorry, but things have changed. Not with me, they haven't. Taking me completely by surprise, he leaned forward, slid a hand up over my knee, and kissed me. I jerked back and grabbed his wrist. Stop it, Heath. I'm trying to talk to you. How about you talk and I kiss, he whispered. I started to tell him no again. Then I felt it, his pulse under my fingers. It was beating hard and fast, and I swear I could hear it too. As he leaned to kiss me again, I could see the vein that ran along his neck. It moved, beating strong as the blood that pumped through his body. Blood. His lips touched mine, and I remembered the taste of blood in the goblet, the blood that had been cold, mixed with wine, and from a weak loser kid, it was nothing. Heath's blood would be hot and rich and sweet, sweeter than Elliot, the refrigerator. Ah, damn it, Zoe, you scratched me. He jerked his wrist from my hand. Shit, Zoe, you made me bleed. If you didn't want me to kiss you, all you had to do was say so. He lifted his bleeding wrist to his mouth and sucked the blood that was glistening there. Then he raised his eyes to meet mine, and he froze. He had blood on his lips. I could smell it. It was like the wine, only better, worlds better. The scent of it wrapped around me and made the hair on my arms rise. I wanted to taste it. I wanted to taste it more than anything I'd ever wanted in my life. I heard myself whisper in a voice I didn't know. Yes, Heath answered like he was in a trance. Yes, whatever you want. I'll do whatever you want. This time I leaned to him and touched my tongue to his lip, taking the drop of blood into my mouth where it exploded. Heat, sensation, a rush of pleasure I'd never known. More, I rasped. Like he'd lost the ability to speak, he could only nod. Heath lifted his wrist to me. It was barely bleeding, and when I licked the tiny scarlet line, Heath moaned. The touch of my tongue seemed to do something to the scratch, because instantly it started dripping blood, faster, faster. My hands were shaking as I raised his wrist to my mouth and pressed my lips against his warm skin. I shivered and moaned in pleasure, and oh my God, what are you doing to him? Kyla's voice was a scream that pierced through the scarlet fog of my brain. I dropped Heath's wrist as though it had burned me. Get away from him, Kyla was screaming. Leave him alone. Heath didn't move. Go, I told him. Go, and don't ever come back. No, he said, looking and sounding oddly sober. Yes, get out of here. Let him go, Kyla yelled. Kyla, if you don't shut up, I'll fly down there and suck every last bit of blood from your stupid, cheating cow body. I spit the words at her. She squealed and took off. I turned back to Heath, who was staring at me. You need to go too. I'm not scared of you, Zoe. Heath, I'm scared of me enough for the both of us. But I don't mind what you did. I love you, Zoe. More than I could have ever. Stop it. I didn't mean to yell, but I caused him to flinch at the power that I had filled my words with. I swallowed hard and calmed my voice. Just go, please. Then, searching for some way to make him leave, I added, Kyla's probably going to get the cops right now. Neither of us needs that. Okay, I'll go, but I won't stay away. He kissed me hard and quick. I felt a white hot stab of pleasure when I tasted the blood that was still on our lips. And then he slid down the wall and disappeared into the darkness until all I could see of him was a little white dot from his headlights. And then finally, not even that. I wouldn't let myself think. Not yet. Moving methodically, like a robot, I used the branch to steady myself as I climbed down. My knees were shaking so badly that I was able to walk only a couple of feet to the tree when I sank to the ground and pressed my back against the security of its ancient bark. Nala materialized, hopping onto my lap as if she'd been my cat for years instead of minutes, and my sobs started as she crawled from my lap to my chest to press her warm face against my wet cheek. After what seemed like a long time, my sobs turned into hiccups, and I wished that I hadn't run out of the rec hall without my purse. I could really use a Kleenex. Here, you look like you need this, Nala complained as I jumped up in surprise at the voice and blinked through my tears to see someone handing me a tissue. Thanks, I said, taking it and wiping my nose. No problem, Eric Knight said. That's the end of chapter 17.